Hey, what's up, everybody? We're here with the second episode of the Rolling With It podcast, and in this episode, I have Briana Bowley, who is a women's empowerment coach who focuses on showing women how to get in touch with their gifts to share with the world. And y'all are really gonna love this conversation. We go over topics like the ins and outs of the transformational process. What it takes to overcome our own beliefs and patterns and we're living in a time where with the rise of the divine feminine and what that means for men and women to rise and evolve into this new time and this new balance. And we also get pretty deep into using our mess or our pain or our struggles as our message, as our mission, and really getting into a space of seeing the things in your life happening for you, not to you, which completely changes, the perspective. So check this out. There's a lot of awesome nuggets here, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys think. All right, check it out. Hey, what's up, everybody? We're back for another episode of the Rolling With It podcast. Today I have Briana Bowley. She's an empowerment coach, speaker, and self-proclaimed explorer and lover of life. Her entire methodology is built upon the belief that we are all put on the earth for a unique purpose and with a unique message. Having worked in the coaching industry for almost a decade, Briana has had the pleasure to work with for and alongside some of the greatest minds in their chosen fields, from world champion athletes to human behavioral experts to leading entrepreneurs and everything in between. Her work is now in empowering individuals to heal through trauma, abuse, and struggle to create the life of their wildest dreams, from surviving to thriving, and to use their pain as a springboard to inspire and impact those around them. Briana, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
There's so much goodness in that bio.
Thank you. It's really cool to hear it reflected back to me.
Right, and honestly, the first question I really have, you said being in the industry for almost a decade, you're seasoned. What brought you into coaching and this whole world, and I know a lot of it had to do with sports and athletes and stuff. So speak a bit about that.
Yeah, so back when I first got into a coaching role, I was working as a personal trainer. So I was dealing a lot with, obviously the physical body and doing a lot of work with nutrition and that sort of thing. And I was really blessed that I got to work with a lot of, people who were navigating significant weight loss. And at the same time, I was going through my own competition preparation as a fitness model. And so with that, of course, comes a significant amount of weight loss and also, working on building muscle and really transforming the physical body. And so through my own journey as a fitness model, as well as working with, these weight loss clients, I started to notice how much, no matter how much of a transformation the physical body went through, some people they would lose the weight and they'd go through this transformation and they'd be able to stick with it. And other people would just sort of immediately yo-yo back to where they started or put on even more weight, And yeah, so I started to sort of go, well, what's the difference here? What's the difference between the people who are able to maintain it and the people who yo-yo back? And I realized that there was this gap, that whilst it was all well and good to create these physical habits and go through this physical transformation, if we didn't transform on a mental and emotional level, we weren't able to maintain it. And so, yeah, I guess I sort of just started nitpicking and looking for this missing piece and fell in love with it. And that's been the journey ever since.
Wow. Amazing. And so, I guess as you, move forward and we're figuring this out, what is it that, what were those pieces in the mindset that you realized that people needed to have to be able to sustain this?
Yeah, I think it's almost been two different journeys for me. So the first bit was understanding, the cognitive aspect of transformation and understanding that a lot of it came down to what our deep unconscious beliefs were about who we are and what we're capable of in the world. And part of that being, these unconscious beliefs that we're taken on through our environment and through, the collective social conditioning. And so, yeah, very much thought-based, the mental side. And then the second piece, which I found much later and is a much more recent journey for me as a practitioner, is understanding the emotional aspect. So understanding, how much, we store, I think of our physical body as a living library of every experience we've ever had.
True.
And so what happens is that, our nervous system has these emotional experiences trapped within the cells. And sadly, we're not really taught how to express these in a safe way and in a way that we're able to handle. And so it's that somatic piece. It's the piece around understanding, how to release these like heavy emotions from the physical body, as well as how to rewire the nervous system for what we do want to bring in. So yeah, two pieces: the cognitive aspect, understanding the thoughts and the beliefs, and then also the emotional somatic kind of aspect, which is all around, the nervous system and what we're programmed to be comfortable with experiencing.
Yeah, no, I totally feel that. Since 2017, I've been involved with I was involved with Dr. Joe Dispenza work, and
Yes.
I literally went to my 9th workshop like a couple weeks ago. He's like I don't know, he explains the science behind that like so, legitly, and it's like our nervous system is the space that is receiving all the information, and we've just kind of learned, I guess, collectively or generationally to feel our pain to a certain degree and then not go further than that, and feel our joy to a certain degree and not go further than that. And then what happens is we have all this kind of energy that's stored in our system that's driving all these lower level habits, and probably why a lot of the clients you were initially working with were not able to bypass that programming, right? And so so when it comes to, so when you talk about like emotional release, which is what I've realized also, especially even more recently, become a daily practice, because it really drives so much. What kind of methods or stuff do you get into to be able to release that energy?
Yeah, that's a loaded question in and of itself.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, I use a bit of a mixture. There's kind of two elements to it. The first is making space. So as I said, the body is a living library of every experience we've ever had. And so we have to clear out some of that, the ick, the stored, I guess, heavier, denser energies from past experiences. And so some of that, I do a lot of embodiment-based work. So it's giving the body permission to feel whatever it needs to feel, and learning how to hold ourselves through that process. So this can look like things like anger releases, or, I often set my clients the task of, setting a timer for 15 to 30 minutes and literally just giving the body full permission to do whatever it needs to be, and sometimes that looks like kicking and screaming. Sometimes that looks like just laying there. Sometimes that looks like, tears. Sometimes that looks like some wild, sexy dance party, but just allowing the body, because we're always up here. We're always, often society pushes us to stay up here, to stay stay logical and stay up in the mental cognition.
Right.
And so the body has a wisdom. The body knows what to do. So that's the first element. The second element is then stepping into what we do want. So we're clearing out the old, and then we're rewiring for the new. So this can look like, a lot of stuff around tapping into the energy of who you want to become.
Right.
I always say that in order to become anything, we have to be it before we become it. We have to go there first. And so it's tapping into, well, if I was the person I wanted to be, if I had the capacity to hold the money I want to create, or the relationship that I want to create, or, the connection to self that I want to create, how would that feel? How would I hold myself? How would I move through the world? How would I speak to people? What what would people feel when I walk into a room? And so starting to create a picture or an awareness of what that looks like, and then choosing to go out into the world as that before you become that.
Yeah, and that's the idea really when you talk about creating your reality, right? Like manifestation and stuff, because most people, it feels like, live their life by default, where you're just reacting to situations that are happening as they're happening and responding to that in the moment, rather than consciously getting into a space of getting into the emotional space of what it would feel like, and projecting that. Rather than waiting for something to happen for you to feel that way, you can actually feel that way by thought alone. And so I kind of like try to break things down in a formula, in a sense, where this whole transformational journey, right? Where we're releasing the energy, number one, right? And as you release the energy, you get kind of like more connected to your intuition, you get more clarity of like where you're trying to go. And then from that place, you can create that piece of the embodiment of what's the life that you want to be like, or what's the life you want to live, or who's the person you want to become. Right? You resonate with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Right? And so, and you work a lot with women who and women who have been abused and trauma, and I've had I predominantly have worked with women too, and have experienced a lot of women that have had are carrying so many like sexual abuse issues and things like that. And I'd love to kind of get like your take from your experience working with people, and what your just general sense of that issue that's really prevalent on so many people,
Yeah, that's loaded.
Yeah.
I think, and this is a generalization, but women are so conditioned by society that we have to fit a particular mold, that and that we have to do it perfectly, and yet we have so many different versions of what we're supposed to be. Once upon a time, society told us that we needed to be thicker and more curvy, and then it shifted to we needed to be stick thin in order to be attractive, and now it's moving into, I think we're heading back to the curvy is best, kind of social conditioning. And that's just to look at the physical side of things, right? That's not even to take into account things like how we're meant to show up as a mother, how we're meant to show up as a lover, how we're meant to show up as a friend, how we're meant to show up as a daughter, how we're meant to show up as, a businesswoman. And there's so many different things coming at us, and we're expected to do it all perfectly. And so women are consistently walking around with this overwhelming pressure to get it all right, even though the marker keeps moving. And so, that I genuinely think, to some degree, every single woman has experienced a trauma. Obviously, some are more severe, I suppose, comparatively. Things like, as we mentioned, domestic violence or sexual abuse, or, coming out of abusive relationships and those sorts of things. But I believe every woman has been through some sort of trauma, because we're all trying to navigate being ourselves in a world that's consistently trying to tell us what we need to be.
Yeah, it's it's like women got like sometimes I feel like women have had to really get the short end of the stick, and generationally, like it's been passed down. We're living in a time now where there is this level of empowerment that's kind of coming through, and there's more stand up for women. But there's been so much me being Indian, there's such a dynamic growing up where the women are just second, and the role that you have to fill taking care of the kids and cooking, and just being it's just this, it's almost like they just have duties that they have to like fulfill, and there's there's just been that dynamic that's, changing now, and it's kind of exciting, right? This is the rise of like the divine feminine, where things are really, coming into order and alignment and balance. And it excites me because I don't know, maybe I'm a mama's boy or something, because I've kind of like grown up just kind of like seeing that dynamic and being upset about it. And so as you being a woman and probably experiencing that to whatever degree and what you were working through, how are you feeling moving into this new age and the work you do that's helping that?
I think it's so exciting. I mean, there's a lot there. I've had conversations with women who are in similar lines of work of late around, how deep this goes. We think back to, witch hunts, where women who were slightly left of center or didn't fit the norm, or, who used their voice or believed in something slightly alternative, were burnt at the stake, and I'm such a deep believer that these memories, they're passed down from generation to generation to generation. And so as women, we have these memories of, oh my God, if I don't fit the status quo, does that mean death for me?
Right.
And so it's so exciting to see now that humanity is shifting towards women having a voice. And I think we still have so much work to do, because I mean, the Western world is shifting, but I still hear stories of, in other parts of the world,
sure,
women still being, murdered for, totally bizarre things that I can't even begin to fathom and wrap my head around. And so we still have a lot of work to do. And in that, I think as well, it's so important that we speak to the men as well, because men are now needing to, they're in this strange space of trying to figure out where they now fit in the world. As women rise and women step up and women start to take on these new roles and really own their voice, suddenly the men are there going, whoa, like, what's going on here? Where do we fit? And so I really think, whilst predominantly my work is with women, to the men, like, I see you guys as well. I see what you're navigating, and I think that together we get to do this. We get to do this together, and we get to, it's win-win. As the women rise, the men get to rise as well. And so as a collective, humanity gets to rise.
Yeah, it's obviously men are very much a part of it, and it's interesting, kind of moving into this time and kind of seeing that shift, because it's generational. It's literally in our genes to be predisposed to being like this. So it's not even necessarily anyone's fault, right? Like, it's, you've kind of come into this. There's a level of conditioning societally, but like, we are predisposed genetically, and it takes work, and to change that. And so I guess, further, and your dog's going off over there.
Yeah, I apologize. The neighbor's dog.
His name is what?
It's the neighbor's dog.
Oh, the neighbor's dog. Okay.
Yeah.
That's no worries. But yeah, I don't know. I guess as what is your kind of experience with that? I'm sure as people are getting triggered and things like that, like what are other ways that we can really embody this and implement this more in our lives?
It's really interesting, because in my experience, I mean, I was brought up in a family of all men. Besides my mum, it was me and my mum, and then the rest, it was all men. And so, I feel I sort of got brought up in a way feeling really comfortable being in a man's world, and I was obviously bodybuilding for a while, and then I was involved heavily in the martial arts industry and things like motocross and BMX, and so all men's worlds, and so for me it's been really interesting to notice where I feel comfortable in something like business. And I guess my experience anyway has been that men are quite okay with a woman in business. But what I've noticed more so is in more personal relationships, there's such a conditioning around, that women need to be really submissive, in intimate relationships, and that women need to be, let the man lead. And so I think there's, and that's a process that I'm working through, starting to try and notice where I fit, and notice where men fit in this dynamic. And I guess just allowing myself to stretch the edges of expression, and seeing kind of gathering the puzzle pieces as we go. There's not a one size fits all, I think it's really, a lot of my work stems around looking at the archetypes, so the 7 archetypes of, in this case, the feminine archetypes, and kind of trying them on and seeing which ones feel good for us, which ones feel like a stretch for us, and recognizing that we don't have to just fit one or two, that we can sort of, I call it style flexing. We can shift and change depending on the circumstances. And so I really think there's not a black and white answer to that. It's just the invitation to women and humanity in general to keep growing, keep stretching the edges of your expression, and because you can't get it wrong, right? There is no right or wrong. There's simply effective and ineffective, and just going in with a sense of curiosity to see what works for you as an individual. I feel like that's a really wishy-washy response to your question,
right.
But I don't feel there is a.
It's a very individual-based journey,
yes. Yes.
and when we kind of get deeper into transformation and in this space, we kind of get more into a sense of learning how to be present, and learning how to, in order to be able to reflect and try on things, we have to be able to let go of all our predisposed conditioning, and come into the moment to be able to really figure out who we are. You talk about how we all have a message, and we all have a purpose here to discover, and so as we go forward into that kind of a space, speak a little bit about that, and how we all need to be empowered to connect to ourselves, to be able to be that person we were born to be.
So I'm such a believer that our pain or our mess is our message, that our struggles are the magic, and for me, the work that I do in the world is based off the fact that I felt like I didn't have a voice, that I felt like I was suppressed, that I felt that it wasn't safe to be who I am. I grew up consistently being told that I was too much, too loud, too opinionated, too much of an attention seeker, all of these things. And so, that was the mess that I had to navigate through, and that was my pain, that it wasn't safe to be who I was, and that I needed to fit myself into this easily digestible box. And so it's being willing to lean into healing that, so that then I can then alchemize that into a beautiful opportunity for other people to lift others. And so I really think it's a matter of, as individuals, being willing to go there, to look at the things that break our hearts, the things that those pain points in our story, because I'm such a deep believer that everything happens for a reason. Absolutely everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, it all happens for a purpose. It doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And to go one step further, it happens through us, right? It's God, it's the universe, it's source, it's the divine, whatever you want to refer to it as, however you connect to it, the higher version of you. It's moving through us because it's allowing us to step into who we're meant to be.
Yeah, my life has been a really interesting one when we really talk about this kind of a topic, because I got paralyzed in 2006. after an accident where I fell off of a third floor apartment balcony, fractured my spine, and it was this whole kind of journey, and it took me to uncover all the deep pains that kind of came with it, because this really was the catalyst to my awakening, because it caused me to ask so many questions of what is reality, why do things happen, and is there a way that we can influence that, and in my life I had been put on the stigma of being in a wheelchair and what that meant, and even kind of embodying it with other people. And my journey has really been able to kind of break free of that and not let the situation define me. And in that space, in that mess, that now I turn into a message, as my book is out, called Rolling With It: Lessons Learned While Sitting Down. And the entire idea here is that no matter what you go through, right, no matter what challenges you're being faced with, it's all perfect and it's all happening for you, not to you, as you said. In fact, that's a chapter in my book, and and that flip, right, to start seeing things as happening for you, not to you, is so huge. I mean, it's from victim to empowerment, right? And when you can really get into a space of seeing life that way, there's no more complaining, there's no more blaming, there's only responsibility, and from that, and where you can always go from here. People spend so much time complaining and being the victim of their circumstances, and it's funny to me, because as I embody this, I people tell me that I basically bitch slap their excuses, and and I've just learned that the more I have embodied that idea, that everything that's happening for me and that I can move through anything and it's all for my growth, magic happens. Right? Life shows up in so many amazing ways, and it's almost like it's always working out for you if you choose to move through the things that the challenges and stuff that you go through. And if you're, you can only hold yourself back by stuck in being upset about whatever situation is being caused. And I imagine this is probably, the work we both do, in helping people kind of move through and kind of change their vision and mindset. And, what else can you speak about that in maybe in your own life and the synchronicities and stuff that I'm sure, have come your way?
Well, I think, it's so important that as individuals we come to realize our power. I'm such a believer we are in collaboration with the universe. So when we have these things pop up in our life, it's not I think we almost get, and this has been my experience through the self-development industry, it's pushed on us to take 100% responsibility. And yes, I agree with that, because that is how we own everything is we played a part in all of it. And I know for me that 100% responsibility piece also brought up a lot of shame for me. It brought up these pieces of, oh, fuck, so I let that happen. Oh my God, so it's my fault. It's my fault that, this, and, for so many women who've been through, rape or sexual assault, that it brings up that shame for them of, it's almost like victim shaming of oh, okay, so I let that into my space. And so it's an interesting one, because like I said, that 100% responsibility piece, I do agree with it, but I do think that it leaves a lot of room for shaming, right, and feeling shame. And so to go, and it's a subtle difference, but to understand that we're in collaboration with the universe is it's almost like this was put in our path. Yes, there is a part of us that called it in. There is a part of us that chose it, because the universe had a higher vision for it. We accepted it. It was brought into our space, and we accepted it because we knew that there was something greater that could come of it.
Right.
And so, do you see like the subtlety? It's sort of hard to verbalize,
No,
but it's that difference between. Sorry,
yeah,
you go.
yeah. I see it as we are constantly building awareness, and so there are things that's like, we're 95% subconscious, so there's so much that we're like not aware of, and so it takes kind of a knack of choosing that everything is causing a level of growth. And yeah, I totally agree. We don't want to get into the space of like you're taking responsibility to the point that you're taking it as your fault. What's wrong with me? You're shaming yourself. It's not about that. It's about just you're getting constant feedback from the challenges and the situations that are being played out in your life, because the external is a reflection of the internal. And so the more and more you can kind of see that and just be like, oh, like what is this in me that is showing up in this space, or what might be causing that, or what is there something that needs to shift? And so I think it's really understanding that this journey is that you're always going to be a work in progress, and that everything that shows up is just an opportunity to keep kind of shifting things, because we have to understand that there's so much that we've inherited, right? And so we're some of the stuff we're dealing with, we're like healing generations like of the past. It's the shit that your ancestors didn't deal with now that you're like that you got to kind of deal with now. And so yeah, when I say responsibility, I definitely don't want to hear it as shaming, but really just the more and more we can open ourselves to that, it's this constant journey, and it's this constant opening and awareness to uncover more stuff. And I feel like sometimes when I talk about that, people are resistant, because it's like, oh, that sounds like a lot of work. That's a lot of work. But I think when you're really on this journey and you keep uncovering things and you keep improving yourself and you keep improving your life, you just constantly get the feedback and the rewards of those shifts, and it's just about understanding that the more and more that you're able to kind of shift moving forward, it's just going to get better and better and better, and that's, I guess, the frame of mind I'd put it in, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving forward, I know that you have a challenge, coming up, and so what is that about, and what does that entail, and who can join that, and all of that stuff?
Yeah, beautiful. So I've got coming up in July, first week of July, I kick off with my 4-week Badass and Bold program. So that's for it's aimed at women, and it's for the woman who is looking to find her voice, the woman who is looking to own her message. This is for the woman who maybe doesn't know, who maybe has lost her sense of self and is knows that there is something more for her, but isn't quite sure how that looks. So over the course of the 4 weeks, we strip back a lot of the layers. We go through and we do that process of going, okay, so what's the past look like? Let's move some of that heavy emotional debris so that we can really see it with a clear line of sight, and start to pull those nuggets of wisdom from it, so that then we can start to build a life around a higher purpose, creating that message out of the mess, so that then it becomes about, rather than survival, because so many women are operating from survival. Rather than operating from survival, it's operating from a place of service and contribution and collaboration with the divine, collaboration with a higher calling, because that's the center point of everything. When we're operating from a place of abundance and from a place of purpose and something greater than ourselves, we draw in the money, we draw in the man, we draw in the relationships, that these soulmate connections, that it just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of the 4 weeks.
Beautiful. And I mean, and just to kind of add to that, this is also true fulfillment, right? Like, a lot of times you're chasing the money and the partner and all this stuff, but it's not really maybe aligned to your truth. And this is how a lot of people get stuck in situations maybe they don't want to be in. And so this is actually, the more and more we release the stuff and really being part of something like this, to uncover your truth, uncover your calling, and actually the things that are going to attract in your life through collaboration with the divine are actually things that are in your highest happiness or highest possibilities, right? And that's the beauty of the work that we do. So definitely, if you guys are, whoever's listening, if you feel called to check out this program with Brianna, hit her up. How can they reach you? How can they get more information on how to get into this program?
Yeah, so either through Facebook or Instagram. So just Briana Bowley. That's Briana Bowley. Otherwise, I do have my free Facebook community, the Warrior Woman Collective. So you can join that. That one's obviously just for the women. Also for the men, I'm not leaving you guys out. I have a new group which is just kicking off called Humanity Rising. And that's for the men, but it's also, we're building towards a beautiful integration of the two groups, because I'm such a believer that as women heal, men heal, and as men heal, women heal. And so the two integrated just creates something even more potent. So yeah, reach out, join those groups. I'm obviously in those groups as well, so you'll have the opportunity to fire questions my way and find out any more information that you want.
Beautiful. And you'll also see your information in the description of this podcast. So thank you so much, Brianna, for joining me. This was a great conversation, and really, love the work that you do in the world, and I'm excited for all the people that get to go through your transformational work. So much love.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you for being here.
It.
Yeah, absolutely.
My pleasure.
All right.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Just wanted to come on here and share with you, if you don't know already, I've written a book called Rolling With It, Lessons Learned While Sitting Down. Rolling With It is the same name as this podcast. Check it out on Amazon. I go deep into my journey from having my accident back in July 29, 2006. So, and really that being the catalyst to my spiritual journey. And I go deep, and I'm raw, and I'm real, and I share with you all my experiences and all the things I've learned along the way. So definitely check it out, guys. Rolling With It, Lessons Learned While Sitting Down. Have a great rest of your day.